Hello, my name is Rob Hirschfeld. This is the 16th, August 16th sprint. Today is the coordination meeting where we talk about things that we've done for the sprint. We review some process checks, and then we talk about upcoming things that we're expecting to do in the sprint. As part of a weekly series of meetings, we've been recording them so that you can review the past. And these meetings are preceded on Tuesdays by a design review where we talk about issues that might impact the upcoming work. And so this is really a process meeting where we coordinate effort. Design happens in the meeting before. Sometimes we digress into design also because it's necessary in planning. If there aren't other questions before we start, we can dive right into it. Actually, one thing I would ask is, can somebody, Adam, I think you're dialing in on the IP phone through Join Me. Can you verify that you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just dialed in by the phone line.
Perfect.
And it works fine.
That's good. Sorry, I actually have two bridges on this. One's Dell internal bridge. Makes it easier for some of the Dell team to join in. So I've been crossing the two bridges and setting up the recording. Good, thank you. All right. So we're going to dive in on this side. We haven't really been maintaining that because we haven't been doing that level of coordination on work items. Hopefully we'll get there. So accomplishments for this sprint from an object model perspective have been pretty substantial. And so let me think. I don't think Victor has joined us. So we've been doing a lot of dev tool work. And I don't know if Adam, if anybody from your side's been watching this, but Victor's been tuning the dev tool so that you can use different remotes than the one that's involved with that.
Yeah, I saw the email about it.
Okay.
Is that available now in one of the branches?
It would definitely be in Victor's personal. I'm not sure when it's actually going to get pushed in. We can get that as a follow-up. And have him. He usually posts the list as soon as he posts it. I think it's on schedule to get in this week. He's doing some testing on it.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're coming up to RC2 right now, so we're kind of a bit preoccupied with that. But I would imagine pretty soon we'll be able to take a look.
Okay. That'd be great. No, I appreciate that. I'll take. I can usually do it both to an extent, but I do appreciate your note taking. It does help. And actually, it provides a second interpretation, so I can see if what I'm saying is making sense.
Yeah, you might have to correct that second interpretation.
That's the. But yeah, I would appreciate that. So we got two defects, security issues raised, and I was alerted to by Suse, which I enormously appreciate. Those have been circulated to our team. We're not, unless you guys want us to share them more broadly. I will not. But we will incorporate the fix. And continue the discussion and then see. We don't, it's obviously open source, so it benefits everybody to share things like that. But since they are part of Suse's internal bug system, it's your discretion. Neither of them are fatal. But I would reinforce that in Crowbar 1.0, definitely it's designed to be behind the firewall, and security was not. Was based on the assumption of internal access only. We are one of the things that we have progress to report on for this sprint is that we're starting to push in the user auth screens, pages, and models. So you'll see those coming into the Crowbar 2 stuff. There was boy. On the model side, we've gotten the Cmdb abstraction. There's a rough cut of that, so that we're actually pulling some attributes from the Chef system in a very primitive way, but it's actually starting to flow through. So we're making progress on that. That was a really big deal. We started replumbing the 2.0 API. Is another big piece of functionality that we saw with this, and for the 2.0 API, I'm actually making sure that the API shows up in the dev guide, so that if you watch the documentation in the dev guide section, you'll actually see that I'm trying to make sure that all the new API calls are documented in there as they're written, and we're also building testing using the BDD test framework for the API as we go. So that's being validated. So one of the contracts that I'm trying to enforce as we go forward on 2.0 work is that the API will be all documented, all tested as part of the design contract. And as you'll recall from two design sessions ago, we had made the decision that we would increment the API number and not try to preserve the 1.0 APIs explicitly. So all the new APIs that are being ported with the 2.0 extension. So we're actively going through that process now. Yeah. And I'm trying to clean up some things like pluralization and be consistent with that. There was a lot of work done in the service object abstraction piece, and a lot of the queuing logic was moved. There's a huge amount of code movement for that, and that's all the queuing is being ported over to the new object models also. Just as a note, we're finding that the database, being able to use the database for this and the schemas and active record, it's not a surprise, but it's resulting in a lot less code, a lot cleaner code, more readable code. We're really excited about that. One of the things we're also doing is we're raising the bar on the amount of documentation. So if you look back through it, Greg went back and added a lot of documentation within the code itself, and you'll also see us adding to the docs live as with check-ins. So we're starting to have an expectation that people who are doing check-ins to the system will also be updating tests, unit tests, which are coming in, BDD tests, and documentation with pushes. So we feel like that's important for velocity. Yeah. So. Hey, Greg. Did you have something to add?
Just letting you know I'm here.
Oh, good. Cool. I'm going back through and thinking about accomplishments for this sprint and what we want to notify people about. Okay, so that's a lot of the stuff. Oh, and then the UI, I started replumbing the UI. So the nodes screen, the dashboard has been ported. It's not by any stretch finished, but it's been ported to use the database as has bar clamps and proposals. So we're making a lot of progress towards mapping the UI into the new object models. Greg, do you want to talk about the decision on the model rename?
Yeah, so we thought about it, we looked at it, we talked about it. Simon and I talked about what we should name it and looked at all the various things. And right now, the plan is to rename proposals to configurations. And configurations, their history of changes on them are instances. So there's a configuration. So you have bar clamps. Bar clamps have configuration. You can have an active instance of a configuration, a proposed instance of a configuration, a delayed or queued instance of a configuration, and that's kind of what we came up with. There are lots of choices. There are lots put out there, ranging from deployment and cluster and configuration seemed to be the one that had the best connotation for what we were thinking about. We even were thinking things like profiles and schemes, but a lot of the comments people had about proposal was it never seemed finished, was it ever applied. We were worried that scheme and profile and things like that had the same connotation. So that's why we kind of went with configuration and then instances of the configuration. So anyway, that's kind of
sorry.
So that's what we were thinking of doing, and probably start doing that this sprint so that we can get the big mass change in and be done with that and renaming that.
Any comments, questions, or concerns? That was we had a lot of pushback about it, but we ultimately came back to exactly that statement. We considered Chuck Norris for a while, but we couldn't secure the copyright. All right. Maybe it was funnier at the time. The opportunities for well, it's situational. All right, so I think that wraps up. This was actually a very productive week for us. I feel like on the Dell team, as you know, we're more and more of our engineers are participating in coding in the models and the UIs and things like that. As they come off of other projects, it's we're starting to see more velocity and productivity, especially because the base models are in, and people can sort of work in more isolated segments. I am going to try and cut a video for how to use the BDD test, and we are documenting it. So if people want to contribute tests, writing the feature tests, which are plain English, any help on testing and building automation is helpful, even if you don't feel comfortable adding code at this point.
I had a question about the BDD tests. Last time I looked at them, which admittedly was quite a while ago, I thought I saw some written in Erlang.
It is.
Is that still the case, and is that the plan going forward?
The BDD system's been in there for quite a while. It was actually a separate project that I started before this, and I brought it in. I was a fan of Cucumber until I started using it, and realized the performance of Cucumber made it inadequate as a testing tool, because to run Cucumber tests took too long. And I felt like that was an anti-pattern for effective tests. So because I believe strongly in doing a BDD, a business-driven development type testing, I brought in that it is in Erlang, and I don't have any intention to change it to another language. It's actually a really nice use of Erlang. The code is very small for what it does, and so I am pushing it with the statement that I will support the Erlang because I believe people can write tests using the BDD language, the DSL, and be successful expanding our test coverage dramatically with minimal Erlang development on the other side of it. And the benefits are far outweigh the addition of Erlang as a language in the system.
I personally always welcome any excuse to learn a new language. I can imagine some other people might give you some pushback potentially. But that's fine by me. I think there might be ways of addressing the performance issues with Cucumber because generally with Rails, I find a lot of them come back to just the load time when you start up a new Ruby process and it has to load in a whole load of gems that can take way longer than it should. And there are ways of getting around that, which I haven't actually tried myself with Cucumber, but things like Spork, where you have a kind of, constantly running invocation, and then it can just hook into that. That might be a solution for that. But yeah, so even if we carry on with the Erlang stuff, if there are other tests written in Ruby, it might be worth bearing that in mind for those.
There definitely are. We are investing in the unit test framework, and we are writing a significant amount of unit tests, and I expect that will continue because we want to validate the models. So any investment in that will pay dividends without a doubt. So yes. My issues with Cucumber were not limited to its performance. The performance was the biggest issue. So good. So yeah, and I'll continue to try and document that so people know how to use it and extend it. It has potential to provide a role for Crowbar beyond simply dev test, and it could actually its original design was to be a potential gate step in application, what is now called configuration migrations, where you could validate that an application was working using BDD before you advanced its stage through another level. Whether or not we ever use it like that is a different question, but that was the original design objective. Anyway, I'm spending more time on that than I had intended. It's more of a background task, but we're pushing hard to keep testing a top priority. Actually, not even, we will make testing a top priority. It's not an option for us for 2.0. With that, it's time to transition over to process items. Hear from you guys if there are any changes that you want to make or any issues that you're having related to process.
I'm hoping that some other Suse guys will start joining over the next week or three. I mean, like I said, we're pretty busy with the release work at the moment, but it's definitely not the intention to just have only me on these calls.
Okay, that's great. And we appreciate your being here and vocal. That's great for us. We're very excited. I have a question for you about defects. So I would ask if you believe that those defects or any defects from Fred are worth circulating. Post them to the list or continue to have me added. I now have a Suse account in your bug tracking, so add me to defects that you think are important. We're happy if I'm happy to comment on them, and if not, try and get them fixed. I'm assuming you're going to push some of those changes back to the Fred branch. or at least just let us know, and we'll get them in.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same thing actually. I mean, well, at the moment, all our fixes are just going in our Essex Hack Suse branch, which you are very, very welcome to look at on GitHub. It's just in the Suse Cloud, organization kind of group account. So you can see pretty much everything we're doing there. But it had occurred to me that, I mean, like I said last week, we're doing a whole ton of work on, the recipes and a bit of work on the framework. There's a lot of fixes going in, and the intention is definitely to upstream pretty much everything. I think it's going to be very, very few commits that we wouldn't want to upstream. I can't really think of any at all right now. Like I said last week, I'm just slightly concerned that it's going to take us a long time to do that, and that all this time our Essex Hack Suse branch is diverging from what you're doing upstream, because we don't have a mechanism for testing your 2.0 work at the moment. We just haven't had the time to sort that out yet. So rather than sort of waiting for us to push stuff to you, if you wanted to start sort of voluntarily pulling stuff, either as a result of being CC'd on bugs in our Bugzilla, or just by randomly looking through our repositories and spotting stuff there that you like the look of, either way, I think we'd very much welcome your involvement in getting this stuff upstream, because I think if we just depend on, if you basically wait for us to issue pull requests, then nothing much is going to happen for probably another month or two, I would guess, at least. But if we can do some kind of thing that's more a joint collaboration, maybe using Bugzilla as the focal point, then we can get stuff upstream quicker.
I'm going to put 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, we need to. I mean, we have the same challenge towards looking. How much we're looking over our shoulder on 1.0 pieces. I think we're on the right track. If you alert me on bugs, or if your engineers know they're doing something that's core, we're happy to evaluate it. Actually, we can watch your commits. That's probably a good. That's probably the right thing to do. Although, at this point, you guys are probably locking down, or are you still doing some? You still have some core commits?
Yeah, we're still committing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're trying to avoid any high risk stuff at the moment. But yeah, there's definitely still stuff going in on a regular basis.
So I can tell you that if you're making changes in the cookbooks and recipes, we have no code movement there. All of our code movement is really at core, and so right now, I would be surprised if there is much of anything that is overlapping, because we're restructuring such core components. I mean, the UI is being gutted. A lot of the queuing mechanisms, the whole data model's being gutted, but we haven't touched the cookbooks at all. We're not there yet, and so all that code we should be able to port over. And I think the cookbooks from Essex Hack are very close to the cookbooks that we have in Trunk right now. Greg could speak to that.
Yeah, with big functions, one's the networking bar command, because we work that to be more model-based and more dynamically applicable. And then the provisioner was reworked a little bit to deal with the UEFI stuff and heterogeneous support.
Yeah, so
There's minor changes. There's big changes in network and minor changes in them.
right now it looks like timing is going to line up for when you guys show up to be able to start doing merging in your changes and being very productive there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, so we're pretty much doing the opposite to you, I guess, at the moment. We're doing very little core changes and mostly the chef and bar camp oriented stuff. And in fact, most of the commits into the main Crowbar repository typically will only affect our install script, which is already diverged from yours. So that's something that's kind of it's too late to be able to do any quick fix to that divergence. That's something that we're just going to have to at some point, get together and look at it and examine what we've done fundamentally different and then try and reshape the framework that you currently have for distribution specific stuff and extend that so that we can shoehorn our specific stuff into that sort of plug-in based approach rather than having this separate script, which is kind of a monster at the moment.
Right. And we've reviewed what you guys did in that, and that's been influencing our design. Although influence is probably the more accurate word. There's things that I know there's things we used, but a lot of it's more of a we tried to respect the paths you guys had taken. Although I don't, Greg or Victor would have to talk about how much of code reuse we actually got.
I think earlier completed that work yet. So in the sense that we want to move to package-based installation, and given some of the Cmdb work we've been doing, we can reorder some things. So to make it more match the Suse style of deployment. And I think in general, all of Crowbar deployments as a method across distros will match more of the RPM-based installs. That's part of our hero plan. We just haven't gotten to doing that part yet. Okay. So one thing I'm really keen to do is figure out a way of getting our spec files over to you so that you can see how we package stuff. Because I think it definitely wouldn't make sense for you guys to have to write all those spec files from scratch when we've done all the hard work. It should be pretty easy to convert them to work on Red Hat. And then from there, pretty easy again to convert them to a deb format for Ubuntu.
Good. We're actually making some changes to how we absorb package information. So this is exactly the time I think to bring it forward. So if you don't mind, Adam, can you make sure we get them either just direct to me or through the list? Because if we can do that, then we're at a good point to influence that.
Yeah, I'll talk to Christoph about that because currently they're only in our internal build service, so they're kind of you need to use a VPN to get to them. But I'll try and figure out. I mean, ideally in the future we would want to publish them on the open build service on OpenSUSE.org, and then they could be built for OpenSUSE as well as SUSE Linux Enterprise. So I don't know what the quickest way of getting them over to you is, but I'll talk to Christoph and try and figure that out.
Yeah, we do not have to make them open. If you guys are still closed, you can share them with me, and I can hold them without being open. Right? Guess this is an open source project, but there's places where we're going to respect each other's IP. Just like there's the BIOS and RAID bar clamps right now are not Dell. Not open by Dell, so we understand that. That's fine. We have this conversation internally where people think that every single thing our team does is in the open source world. We do as much as we feel like is important and practical and right to help everybody. We understand that there's times when you don't want something shared, and we'll work with you.
Yeah, I don't know what Christoph's position on that is exactly. I think there's still some debate over which components of the product are going to be completely open versus, maybe some will be, slightly less easy to access. So I don't really know what the final answer is on that. But I would have thought that spec files you would at least want to share with you. I mean, even if only as a one-off snapshot thing, so that when you start doing your work for the other distributions, then it's not a big paradigm shift from how we've done it, because then the knock-on effects of that are obviously not going to work in our favor if the way you're packaging for the other distributions is significantly different to the way we're doing it.
Okay, let's make sure. Let's see if we can do that. Once again, we do not have to. We do not. It's not an automatic. We must share everything. So if you guys just want to do it out of band, we're happy to do that.
Cool. Going back to the changes that we have made to the core, it might be worth you taking a peek at those two URLs that I put in the Etherpad. For example, I'm reminded that I recently made a bunch of changes to support committing proposals through the REST API, I think. And that was what I fixed because, it was dequeuing proposals didn't work through the command line through the REST API, and I fixed that. And I imagine that's the kind of core change that if I don't upstream that soon, then my hard work might go to waste because it will end up having to be done in a different way after the refactoring.
I think Greg was working on that model this last sprint. Do you have a comment, Greg?
I need to look at it. I didn't change the code operation. I just reorganized it a little bit. So, I just looked at that and see how to put it into the course to make sure we have that fixed.
Yeah.
So I'll get that link from the page. I've just pasted that particular commit, the link for that into the chat window.
Cool. Thank you. So one of the things that we can do is we can work to get some tests to cover queuing and dequeuing proposals. Greg, I think we probably are in a position where that could be done. That could be one of the things we try and accomplish for this sprint. Cool. So on that note, let's move on to planning things for this coming sprint. The top one was the change. I always do that. From proposal to configuration. Greg, are you thinking to call it configuration or config?
Show it as configuration.
+1 on that. It's harder to abbreviate instance.
And for namespace collision reasons, I'm actually thinking about calling it BarkMap config and BarkMap config.
Oh. I'm getting a lot of echo. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, you'd want to do that from the database perspective anyway. That would, yeah, and then in the model, in the object, they show up as configs and instances. Yeah. Interestingly enough, we've been talking about instances as timelines and snapshots on a timeline. Instant is actually a time reference. Hadn't seen that until I typed it. Okay, so that's a major thing that we're expecting to get done. We'd already talked about DevTool push of changes for that. That's expected. The UI auth work should actually start to be exposed. Not expecting it to be wired in though. We're going to keep getting the unit and API test coverage in BDD speak. What that means is pre and post steps will be working. Networking models are going to show up. Probably not much on the UI at this point for that. The networking, and there's a note with this. The networking will require a lot of UI because networking configuration will be done through the UI instead of through the JSON config is the plan. So there'll be a lot of movement around that. And part of what I expect to see with proposals is configurations now is there'll be some UI, maybe UI work to create configurations will be working. I'm hoping we can do a little bit of that. What about on the Cmdb side?
We hope that more of that will start showing up. I'm not sure completely how much we've looked over yet. We're making progress.
Okay. So yeah, that one's one where it's sort of a journey of exploration, and we're finding things out as we go and getting that going. At some point, I was going to get Chef more engaged, Opscode more engaged in helping with that, and it might be time. So I'm going to. We can talk about that more in planning and see about that. Opscode had participated and was going to play with that, and we can talk about Puppet. Had also talked about contributing on some of this work, and I'm not sure we're there for them yet. But we need to. We'll start tracking that. That's quite a bit. Am I missing something major, Greg, or is that a pretty good list? Oh. I'm sorry.
Sounds like a lot to me.
It's a huge amount. These are all ongoing. I wish we could make firmer commitments on getting some of this stuff going. We're making fantastic progress at this point, but they're all intermediate milestones. One thing to note here is that there are some changes. Suse, you guys want to be aware of this. And this should be back in the thread into the boot sequence. Oh, there's two things. Greg, you had made a change. Did the boot change? Change the sledgehammer in 2.0 surface? Okay, so that's still pending. What about on the Fred branch for
Oh, wait,
our?
in Duo it did, yeah.
Okay.
So in the development tree, the change to not do the node rename in the middle of bring up happened or went in, and that caused a change in Sledgehammer, a very minor change. But yeah, that's true. But those are in the development Rails for Cmdb trees.
And did we push the changes we made to the DHCP discovery process into Fred?
Yes.
Okay, so so on the Fred branch, there's a change to the
Provisioner boot sequence.
sorry, yeah.
Changes how we deal with the network booting of things so that we can deal with finicky hardware that doesn't understand how to transition to local disk from a network boot.
So I don't know if Suse wants to pull in that change, but you guys should be aware of it.
So what's the idea behind that? Sorry, I missed that. So we found that there's some hardware platforms that do not handle transitioning from a network boot. If you network boot them through Pixie and then have Pixie Linux try and transfer to the local disk from that network boot image, the system won't actually function. It will start to try and boot, but it will hang. And so the change is to update the provisioner such that it won't, it will tell the system to not network boot the next time, and it will boot directly from the local disk. And then if we need to reboot or something, we'll do a reset of the next boot request to do a network boot, and then reboot back to the back of the network boot sequence. It just removes a network boot requirement to go into the actual OS after it's installed. Okay, yeah, we should probably look at that. Do you know which hardware models were affected?
Yes. It's some of our newer gear. It's on the PowerEdge C 6220 series specifically. I don't know if it's how widespread the challenge the problem is. Some of our gear worked fine. Some of our operating systems worked fine. But we found that this process was more generic, and so we think that it's overall more robust.
Okay, cool. And is that the changes to the deployer bar plan or provisioner? It's deployer, it's the provisioner and the deployer SLP. Mostly I think it's provisioner. We should have Victor point those commit changes out.
Now I've got typing here. Okay. Good. And there was another one that there's another item I was thinking to highlight. Oh, and merge, Greg. We've had an ongoing discussion about when we would merge Rails 3 and DB into Trunk. That has been your call about when to do it. Is it this sprint or not?
I don't know. I will see what people think in the sprint. The big question is how many people have pending changes on Rails 3 and DB.
Okay.
I don't think there's that many, so we probably will do it. Mostly, I think Deb's work is pending. Chris may have a few pieces pending. Yeah, I don't see any recent commits on the deployer bar clamp on Fred master. So, then it's most likely just contained to the provisioners. Yeah. However, I did notice another commit from Greg from 2 months ago, which looks like it's a tweak to the high plugin for parsing LLDP data, and that's something that I've actually been working on yesterday, that same code as a result of the security thing, so I might as well bring it up now just quickly. I was wondering if apparently there are no tests, well, maybe there are, I haven't looked, to be honest, for that code that, takes the TCP dump, and looks at LLDP packets and then parses the contents. Is that something, I kind of had problems hacking that when I was working on it the last 2 days because I wasn't actually able to generate any LLDP packets on my local network, so I just had to download some from like Wireshark.org or wherever, and then kind of make intelligent guesses about what it was supposed to look like. If there were, and it's hardware specific. So I was thinking if we had a kind of museum of packet captures that we could use, at least for development, if not for automated testing of that little bit of code, that would be pretty useful. That's a good idea. Okay. I'll be writing that into the wiki or the page. All right.
Okay. So we're at the point where I would ask, are there any blocks? Okay. I wasn't expecting any. I think we did a good job identifying some synchronization points. I'm pretty excited about that. Yes. Good. Yeah, and I had submitted back on we can talk about that off. We should talk about the defects offline until Suse decides you guys want to publish them. Cool. All right. Any other items before we close the meeting? Okay. Hey guys, I hope these meetings are helpful. We're getting positive feedback internally from our team that they're useful, and Adam, your participation has been great. We really appreciate that. I think it's a sign of how well we can collaborate together, that we're starting to get in the process sort of humming along. I like that.
Yeah, it's really useful for I've been emailing my team with brief summaries of what's happened as well, just so that they know. That I've been keeping an eye on it. And as I said, the intention is definitely to get other guys from the team dialing in. I mean, I imagine I won't always be able to anyway, and I certainly don't want to be the single point of failure on the interaction with you guys. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get to hear from other people on the team pretty soon as well. But I love this Etherpad approach to the notes. But I think that saves so much time for me. It's great to be able to just fire a link to the team and say, right, this is what was discussed, and I don't have to spend too much more time other than the actual call itself, which is great.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I find it's really, really helpful, especially the collaborative aspect to it. All right, with that, I'm gonna close it until we talk again on Tuesday. I'll see everybody online.
Okay.
Thanks.